Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening. Today we are from Group 1 will talk about the fundamental of economy, which is a scarcity and supply and demand. So as we know, a field of social science study how human manage a limited economic resource to satisfy a limited human want. So that is the fundamental meaning of economy. So we proceed next. So what is the scarcity? So basically the scarcity is a basic economic problem, the gap between limited resources and theoretically limitless one. So scarcity can be referred to the relative availability of manufacturing input or the gradual decline in the supply of the resources or product in closeness to demand. So as the result of a scarcity problem, economic unit have to make a choice between the desired good or services. Choice problem involve making decision about which one need to be certified first or involve sacrifices. So why is it matter to know about the scarcity? So basically, scarcity is essential in economic supply and demand, where it can limit the option accessible to the customer, who ultimately contribute to the economy. Second is it is also support us to comprehending the opportunity cost of allocating limited resources. So there are several examples of scarcity. So as we know that in 2023 in Malaysia, local rice become the scarce material, making the price go up because of this low supply. Second, gasoline is also depleting substance because of it cannot be created and one day the gasoline will run out. So is one of the scarcity of resources. And finally, is clean water. As we know that in our world, there are only 1% of clear water. Uh, so that means it's become the scarcity of resources.
Next, I will explain about the supply and demand. So, concept of supply, which is in economics, supply refers to the quantity of a good or service that producers can provide to the market at different price levels during a specific period. It's a fundamental economic concept that is crucial in determining market equilibrium and prices. So, price mechanisms are also involved in supply and demand. Next, for demand. Demand is an economic concept related to a consumer's desire to purchase goods and services and willingness to pay a specific price. An increase in the price of a good or service tends to decrease the quantity demanded. Likewise, a decrease in the price of a good or service will increase the quantity demand. So why the supply is important? Supply is essential because it ensures that enough goods are produced so that the consumer demand for those goods is maintained. Usually, if supply is lower than demand, the price of that commodity will increase. So this supply schedule or curve determines how much of a good is produced at a certain price level. Next is the factor influencing both for supply and demand. So for the supply, this is the major factors, which is we got price, cost of production, and the technology. So for the price in a lot of supply, when the price of a product goes up, the supply of the product also increases and vice versa. Means that if once decrease, it will supply of the product also decrease. So this is considered as the variation in the price. For the cost of production, if the cost of production increases, the supply of product will shrink in order to save the resources. And lastly, for the technology, technology leads to an increase in the efficiency of the production process, which result in the shifting of the supply curve. Means that it will cut cost for the production. For the demand, there are three factors as well, which is the price of product, consumers' income, number of consumers. So for the price of product, consumer wants to buy more of a product at a low price and less at a high price. So this inverse relationship basically referred to the law of demand. That's for the consumer's income. The effect that income has on the amount of a product that consumers are willing and able to buy depends on the type of good. Lastly, for the number of consumer, as more or fewer consumer enter the market, this has a direct effect on the amount of the product that consumer are willing to buy. So this is about the supply and demand.
So for supply and demand equilibrium, there is three graph to elaborate the equilibrium. So as you can see, there is three graph, which is supply, demand, and equilibrium. So for supply graph, all other circumstances be equal. So when the price of an item or service rises, so will the amount of that good or service offered by providers and vice versa. For the demand graph, price and quantity demand of any good and service are when the price of a product increases, the demand for for the same product will fall. As for the equilibrium graph, when supply and demand approach equilibrium, the distribution of commodities is more efficient since the number of goods given equals the amount of goods desired. So as you can see, there is an intersection in the graph. So the demand and supply is at the optimum result when there's a section in the graph. So for the supply and demand disequilibrium, there is two graphs that we can see, which is excess supply and excess demand. So for excess supply, it is also known as surplus. Refers to a situation in which the quantity of a good or service that is being offered for sale exceeds the quantity that is being demanded by customers at the current price. So it will be resulted in oversupply. For the excess demand, when the price of an item is lower than the equilibrium price, it means that more customers want to purchase the good than providers are ready to sell. It means that the item will be not enough for the customers. So that is called excess demand and excess supply. So for the Kiros, which is the price mechanism for economy right now, prices will affect competition and consumer choices. So for the competition, they encourage firms to compete by offering better products, lower prices, or more efficient services in order to attract customers. As we all know, or as an example, why we have to expense higher prices for the same quality products when we can spend a little money on the products. So for consumer choices, consumers may decide to reduce their consumption of a commodity or service when prices rise or explore for an alternative. They might boost their consumption if price decline. This aids customer in choosing wisely depending on their taste and financial limitations. So these two key roles is really important in our economy.
Price elasticity. Price elasticity is the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded of a product to the percentage change in price. The price is always changed according to consumer behavior. If the product is price elastic, it means that a small change in price will result in a larger change in demand. On the other hand, if the product is inelastic, the price changes will not affect demand as much. Government intervention on supply and demand. Government intervention refers to actions taken by the government to influence or regulate economic activities. It can include policies such as tax and subsidies, price controls, or regulations to achieve certain economic or social objectives. Government may urge price ceilings to prevent price from rising too high, ensuring affordability for consumers. Price floors, on the other hand, are set to establish a minimum price level, often to support producers and maintain a certain standard. Conclusion: scarcity and supply and demand are two fundamental economic concepts that help us understand how people make decisions, how goods and services are valued, and how resources are distributed. Scarcity affects the monetary value people place on goods and services and how government and private firms decide to allocate resources. The law of supply and demand combines two fundamental economic principles describing how changes in the price of a resource, commodity, or product affect its supply and demand. That's all from us. Thank you.